want to be a great leader, you can't take time off. He really embodied that one more rep, I will outwork you. And he had a rationale and a philosophy. It wasn't just reckless abandonment for abusing his body. It was, he had a purpose and he had a mission and he had a formula for it, and he just kept getting better. Everybody could use that little dose of inspiration, motivation,
right,
to jumpstart their day when they're having that bad day.
Right.
And when they're having a great day, that's even better because you celebrate it, because we say, hey, that's the beginning of a winning streak.
Yeah.
Let's do that again tomorrow. The realization happened when I was injured, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor, my co-host, Matt Calabria. Today, we're going to talk about leadership through adversity and how to put your best foot forward. Let's get started.
Great.
Doc, what's up, Matt?
Not much. Good
Talk to
be
me,
back.
kid.
So, working alongside you now for just about 2 years. You're one of the best in the county. We got 4 top-notch clinics in Monmouth County. And, you know, you're really growing, too, with Dr. John O'Connor Enterprise, with Pulse Penf and MedRay Laser, local Cryo Penguin, and EMS Shockwave, all those companies, too. And you always say it starts from the front, right? So what's your take when it comes to leadership, running 4 practices on top of the other business with the main companies and the science we work with?
Probably, I would say, looking to learn from people that are doing it. And that's why I went into the deep immersion of talking to people that I respect highly, like Rob Gill. And a huge shout out to Rob. My boy just lost his mom, and we love you, Rob. So just wanted to reach out and say we're thinking about you. Big hugs, and we're here for you. But looking at people that are doing it on a high level, and the importance of, you know, you got to sign in every single day. And I believe I saw a post the other day by Alex Hormozy talking about winning, and people complaining they work a 9 to 5, but they own the company and they only work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then he did the math on how many days and hours and minutes there are if you work through Saturday and Sunday. And, you know, for me, it's the reiteration of, if you want to be a great leader, you can't take time off. Yes, you have to carve it out. Yes, you have to recharge your body. Do I believe in recovery? I preach it. I live it. I put it out there to the world every single day from start to finish. But you must outwork your desire to be lazy and complacent.
100%.
And I think that is probably the biggest thing in leadership that I'm working on. I try to hone that skill every day. And then communication. I think that how I motivate myself and how you always joke around when I know you say amped up is not going to be how every one of our team members gets going.
Right.
And we have to be mindful of that, because how we maybe massage one person's personality to get the best out of them, where someone else needs a little tough love.
Yeah.
And yet they resonate from and say, Doc, I needed that. Thank you. So I think the biggest thing that I'm facing right now is, with having multiple companies and scaling at the rate we are, is staying consistent in those lanes and knowing who's with me. I'm blessed. I said this yesterday when I sent you guys that appreciation text. Like, you know, I'm blessed to have 2 distinctly unique personalities in you and Christian. I communicate to you guys very differently on purpose. You know, I try to match the communication to your personalities to get the responses and evoke the responses that make you feel great in the role you're in and want to do better. And I know we're onto something. It's going to be amazing. So for me, leadership has been stay focused. Like right now, we're taking some L's, remind people where we were, where we're going. Look at the power of momentum, and constantly just keep, you know, sharpening the stone and just putting your head down and keep going.
Foot on the gas pedal. Love that. As far as those losses go that you mentioned, everybody goes through them, but with that comes adversity. And being a leader of a big company and a leader of multiple companies now, what's your take on adversity, and how do you handle it on your own outside of the clinic?
Exercise. You know, my rituals and routines start around my morning practice. And a big part of that, the realization happened when I was injured, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I make sure to stay in those routines to really keep myself at my optimum level.
Right.
Because I know if I'm down, you see right away that the coordinator is down, the healthcare providers, the different there. My energy's up, everybody's up.
Everyone's up.
And people are paying a premium to see us. So it's my job that my rituals or routines keep me in a space that I'm delivering at this optimum level. And if I'm distracted because I'm having a bad day or emotionally I'm just not in, I have to figure out what gets me there. And again, I've been blessed to be inspired to read as much as I can, or audiobooks, or however I can to get information in. I love the thought of like a gratitude walk. If I'm going out to my car, if I'm loading my truck, if I'm preparing the day and I'll take the long walk, I'll park on the other side of one of the facilities and I'll go through steps of what I'm grateful for. What do I love? What makes me happy? Memories of things that were fantastic. So by the time I get in the door, I am literally a tidal wave of just positive energy.
Right.
And I'm going in and I'm just, I want to touch souls.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what a leader does.
Definitely. And it comes down to no quit.
Yeah.
Right. So
absolutely.
I'm sure you have those mornings, those workouts where you're halfway through and your body's tired, you ache somewhere, your mind isn't fully into your workout. Now, instead of quitting, what advice can you give your listeners and viewers if they get tired during something or whatever it is that they're doing during the day? How can they overcome that and get the job done?
So I always feel like your house is your home court. And, on every floor of my house, I tribute to Kobe. And I'm looking at it right now, actually.
R.I.P.
And, I loved his tenacity. I love, now that he's passed with the tragic accident, that people remember him and the videos, the outtakes, the screenshots, and the quotes that he really embodied. That one more rep, I will outwork you. And he had a rationale and a philosophy. It wasn't just reckless abandonment for abusing his body. It was, he had a purpose and he had a mission and he had a formula for it. And he just kept getting better.
Yeah.
And that competition, I really think, and it's, we were talking about, pre-podcast today, it's always been him versus him. And he always was pushing that envelope and pushing that limit. And that's something I try to do.
Right.
As I'm approaching 50 this upcoming May, my goal is to, get back to doing everything that I was doing. And, maybe it's a different level, but, train at it and constantly revamping the program and constantly putting myself, under stress because again, just like a diamond's formed, right?
Yeah.
It's pressure and it's, hours and hours and years and a diamond's formed. And, that's
nothing's a walkthrough.
Nothing's a walkthrough. And I think that grind, is critical path. And I think that, when you share that with people, and listen, to me, one of the greatest assets I have is when I get to have time with patient care coaching or whatever we're doing now these days in our business practices or companies, is talking to more successful people.
Yeah.
You and I sat in a meeting yesterday with one of the new ventures we're going to be jumping into with the CBD company. Right. One of our future partners just sold off one of the legs of his company for $50 million. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's life-changing, And, I start thinking, and I think
Mind you, one of the smartest guys I've ever met.
100%. It was a little intimidating that when he went on that, that intellectual dissertation on the molecules in the cannabinoid and how they dissociate and this and that. Right. I was like, I had the Jerry Maguire moment when I was like, you had me at hello. I'm like, all right, you're going to be my go-to when I'm speaking about a product and I'm, frozen. I'm going to be like, hey, Pat, start spitting out the data,
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that another thing as a leader is to not always embellish your success, but reflect on your failure and go to people that are more successful than you and say, hey, how did you deal with a bad day? What did you do? And I think that exposure to showing a humbleness or a gratitude to have people around you, I think people appreciate that. And you're always going to have the one thing I've learned as a boss, an employer, a leader, is you're always going to have some of your team that requires a little bit more of a push.
Right.
And it's not that you're not leading. Sometimes it's just they can't be pushed that way.
Right.
And you have to reinvent them. I had a great business coach, and still I confide in him with a lot of information. And the one thing that I would say that I hold true, or I see it as something that's is putting expectations, unrealistic expectations on somebody. And I almost compare it to like the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again, expecting a different outcome. And, set realistic expectations, but sometimes change their roles because they can be an asset, but in that role, it's not their best position.
Right.
Right. You see it in professional sports all the time, right? I mean, you saw it when, A-Rod came to the Yankees and he was a shortstop and they put him at third base and they went on a run.
Yep.
And you take a guy that I think they're still paying his contract, right?
I know.
And the ego and the greatness and a Hall of Fame, level player.
Yeah.
And you're saying, hey, you need to do me a favor for the best of the team. And I think that great leaders, the conviction and the words they say and the thought process that goes into that and the level of emotion is so important. Anybody that's around me and my team, and I love my boy Drew Mornay that was on with us last week, and he said something about his companies, how it's like a brother and sister or their family, and that you want the teams to feel super important. I talk to my social media team. They work for me, but they have their own company. I talk to any of my guys that I work with, and girls, as part of my company because my success depends on them. And they're in the same way that if the more successful I am, the more successful they are.
Right.
And that's a part of leadership. That's reminding them that because I know the biggest thing coming up for me in sports and whatnot, we had plenty of coaches. I wouldn't say they're all good coaches.
There's only one good one out of the bunch that stick with you for life.
Yeah, and that resonates with you. And the same thing with leaders. There's plenty of people that call themselves a boss, but
who isn't a leader?
Who is not a leader. And I always say, like, if I'm saying the word boss and leader, I'm probably having a bad meeting.
Yeah.
My actions and my words should be that of caring, of devotion, of conviction that they're like, he is supercharged. And when you saw it today, I mean, we were on the phone with a major physical medicine supply company, and that was their chief operating officer. And literally, I honestly felt like he was about to give us the keys to the building. And I felt that conviction. I felt that I knew with Velocity HP coaching how we could help somebody change their lives, change their practice, and change the outcomes of patient care. And they realized because they provide the products, they're like, oh my goodness.
They know what you can do and they know how you can lead their product.
If that voice can be optimized and that voice can be broadcast in a manner that resonates with the masses,
right? That
we can create, a level of success that everybody's enjoying because whether it's the supply chain or whether it's the actual business or it's the sons and daughters that are home that are living better and doing more things as a result of the success that we're helping them enjoy, then we've done a great job. And
Absolutely.
that's a service that I would love to be part of.
Yeah, for sure. And being such a big leader to a wonderful team we have, being a leader on any type of team comes stress and, a hardship mentally some days, right? So 2-part question. Do you ever get stressed mentally? 1, and 2, how do you as a leader handle it yourself?
Eat pizza. No, what's funny? I try to remember that we're all human. And, we had an incident the other day, and not even an incident, where I love my team and maybe I don't express it all the time the way I should. And my intensity can be construed as something different than it is.
Right.
But ultimately, I would love there to be, financial success and abundance that, gifts and rewards and bonuses and raises could be there, but reality is that's not always the way.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is sharing with them, that, hey, we have these hardships too. People think that, again, that it's always successful. Yeah, it's my job to show up. It's my job not to show up with scruff
Right.
and unshowered and depressed and I'm having a bad day. It's my job to
Everyone's gonna fuel off of you.
yeah, and it's my job my job and my duty and my responsibility and those powerful words to, to raise the level, right?
Right.
And that means that I have to have those rituals, routines that are so consistent that I can't let their distractive way take away from them. And my younger population works for me. We've had a couple emotional episodes where these kids have been with me since they're children. And, when they go through hardship, you don't realize how much you love your team because in the moment I was crying for her and it hit home. And it's like, hey man, being a leader is feeling their pains and, but being a great leader is celebrating the wins.
Right.
I read a great piece of literary material on leadership and coaching, and it was so powerful to me. And, it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe, Sean Killeen is my video creator and social media guy. But you know how amazing it would be to send his father a note to say, hey, this kid's super special.
Yeah.
And he's really doing stuff above his years, ahead of himself, and he's going to do great things. Because I think that we all forget sometimes the power of that.
Yeah.
And, that servitude or gratitude, no one knows unless you're able to do one thing, communicate.
Right.
And that is what a great leader is. It's the ability to communicate.
Everything.
And when you can do that, and that was one thing that I actually did that morning. We were talking about, before the show today, is one thing I want to start practicing is like random acts of communication and kindness.
Right.
To reach out to somebody and express that. And, and thank them for the fact that they brought somebody into my life that's made my life, my company's life, and my family's life better.
Right.
And, something I feel about you. I said it. It was funny when, you were away last week, and congratulations again on getting married and your honeymoon in Jamaica. And, every time you text me or saw some Instagram, I always saw one life or whatever. And I chuckled. I was like, my man's having a great time.
Oh yeah.
And, but the moral of the story is it made me appreciate your value.
Right.
And, I couldn't express that enough that if you were a fly on the wall during that, I said to myself, I was like, I'm blessed to be able to lead these young people. And it's my obligation to go to the drawing board every day and try to be better at what my job is and my role is to them.
Right. And
if I can do that and that inspires them to want to bring it another level and raise their level, then I'm doing a damn good job.
Right.
And,
no doubt about it.
I have a great friend that owns one of the top restaurants in the state, Lubrano's. Try to read it, Cucini's going to kill me getting it wrong, but he'll be listening to this. And but Lubrano's is, a family-based store. And when you talk about like a mom and pop shop that just kicks ass, I mean, not only do they make the best authentic Italian food, but they're there.
Yeah.
And, he goes to Italy to see his family. He's got a house in Italy. And, I think the 2 months going through that, he's going through all his Dr. Sarno stuff because he's having an anxiety attack. He's leaving the store. And the reality is that the leadership that those guys, those workers, his staff sees, their family to him.
Yeah.
And, the loyalty when you go in the store from the front to the back, that's what we should all aspire to be. And I don't care whether you're, you work in sanitation, construction, healthcare, food industry. Everybody needs a great leader. And whether that's the manager, the shift leader, a coach, a captain, because everybody could use that little dose of inspiration and motivation to jumpstart their day when they're having that bad day.
Right.
And when they're having a great day, that's even better because you celebrate it because we say, hey, that's the beginning of a winning streak.
Yeah.
Let's do that again tomorrow. Great job. Great work. Keep
Absolutely. And it's the people that notice you being a leader. They want to aspire to be like you, work in the way that you do become. But going outside of the workplace, not even being a leader for a company, business, but being a leader by yourself. So you wake up, you look in the mirror, somebody who needs to be motivated by themselves to become a leader without anybody watching. What's that mindset like? How do they flip the switch to tell themselves, okay, let's do this. If someone's watching me, they'll want to do what I do, be just like me.
It's that's probably the difference of the one percenters, right? I know I always aspire to people look at me in my industry to say, he is a remarkably hard worker, and his consistency is commendable, and that he is dialed in every single day. And for me, it started with physical. I think when you're in healthcare, it's your job and it should be your oath to take care of yourself and show up and look the part.
Right.
And I know when I had that stretch of time when I didn't feel good, you could see by the amount of layers of clothing that I had on, the vests and layers, because I had lost weight and I didn't feel great and I didn't look great. And it really hit home to me. And so my rituals and routines now are about saying, hey, for me to practice servitude to all the strangers I haven't met, to all the practices I help coach, to the kids that I inspire or I'm coaching or helping through injuries and working on them as patients or mentoring them, that it starts with those rituals and routines. And when I go through it, whether I'm meditating for 12 minutes or I'm taking an ice bath or I'm going through my PEM therapy, I try to sit there and go through those moments and think about the ones that are to come, the ones that happened, and the ones that are going to happen that day, and be present. And when I go through that, I'm fired up. And that's why, like by 5:30 in the morning, it feels like it's already noontime to me.
Ready to go, yeah.
Because I have set my intention for the day. I've done the routines to wake myself up, to have my brain in that positive headspace.
Yeah.
And now I'm ready to help others.
Right. Love that. And for someone who's not in the right headspace every day, all the time, someone who doesn't have the leeway of using science like PEMF and other ways, as far as advice or tricks of the trade that you can give your listeners, whether it's meditate, anything to get them in that mindset, what advice would you give your viewers?
It's funny. That was something that I pulled today. And again, I love watching people that I look up to. Like when I was a kid, and the kids today don't do it. When I was a kid in sports, you wanted to shoot like Larry Bird. You wanted to jump like Jordan.
I went through all batting stances on the Yankees, so yeah. I know.
Yeah, exactly. And, I stopped playing baseball right when I was paralyzed. It affected my eyes. But again, you wanted to swing like Mattingly, or, you wanted to have that crazy chop like Dave Winfield.
Yeah.
And, for me, again, I was a Yankees fan too.
Mm-hmm.
And, so those guys, Reggie Jackson, and you wanted to have those crazy swings. Now I try to emulate the people like Ed Milet or leadership like a Dana White, where they're constantly going out into new territories and in new parts of the world, or even the wellness space like, Gary Brecka. I love what he's doing, how he's transformed his life and his career. He went from being a medical evaluator of health and mortality to now inspiring people, what he learned, what would cause you in your life to have you to live your best life.
Right.
So I think if you're talking about like just basic things, it's getting up and having a glass of water.
Yeah.
Getting outside and going for a walk, putting cold water on your face, and waking up and reading, right? Nowadays everything's accessible on YouTube or some form of social media platform, and read a few powerful things to get inspired,
right,
and get yourself going and say, hey, you know what? This person was having a bad day and this is what they did. And, we talked about it with regards to fitness and consistency is do a plank, do a 5 push-up challenge. Put a Post-it on your mirror in the morning. So the first thing you say is, hey, 5 push-ups, even on the sink.
Yeah.
Right. Our boy Eric with his app, and it's a brilliant app, right?
Yeah.
Because, it's about an accountability app that the phone goes off in your company, this and that, and you win coins or tokens. And, it creates for people who have a sedentary or a desk lifestyle to move at work, whether you're doing, isometric bicep curls or lateral arm flies or leg extension on the desk. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
For people that don't do a lot, that might be more physical activity than they're going to get all day long.
Right.
So, but like I said, there's so many inexpensive ways that are just based on the word that I love, and, and it starts with E, effort, right?
Yeah.
You have to put that effort in. I think when you do that, then the rest is easy.
Absolutely. Now, this one's going to hit, and I can't freaking wait to hear the answer. When it comes to being a leader in the workplace, at home, regular life, how do you separate being a leader with your employees, your kids, your wife? How do you separate all those 3 aspects to make sure you're giving them 110% of you being a leader for them?
Priorities. So, when when you talk about the kids, that I have my, as you know, Johnny's down at IMG, and, Dakota's, here, and she's dominating with school and working, and, being partnered with Jess, at work. It is about keeping things for me in their lanes. And, you try not to speak about work when there's relaxing time.
Right.
You try to celebrate, like, with him being, this is the furthest he's been away from me in 18 years.
Yeah.
So, I try to have times a day where I say, if it's Sunday and I know he's going to watch football all day, because I know he'd be doing it here, to check in and be like, what are the games today? And then all of a sudden I start seeing my phone app and he says, toss the code. And I start chuckling because I know he's wagering on on sports teams.
Yeah.
And then, so I think it's like words of encouragement. I think that you want to be programmed a little bit. I think everything's not spontaneous, and sending out words of appreciation. Hey, great job today. Good luck at school.
Yeah.
Have a great day. And I think those kind of things really keep it balanced, and getting out and having a good meal and trying to do those kind of things. But I think it shouldn't be effort. I think that, but one thing to talk about in leadership, like right now, is a very busy time for me.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of recreation time. And that's a part that everybody has to be realistic about, that sometimes it's going to be that way.
Right.
So when you get a quick moment or a second, take a second, embrace it, take a deep breath, say thank you, appreciate somebody.
Right.
And it goes a long way, because you want to hear it. Like, I know I want to hear it, right?
Absolutely.
I know if I'm grinding and I'm going after it, like today we had a great day of patient care. You were alongside me the whole way, and, we were grinding the whole day on Zooms and FaceTimes and everything else.
In and out of treatment rooms. It was amazing.
It was wild. And I think people take for granted, or they underestimate the power of themselves and their superpower, their ability to really be great. And they have to remind themselves, like today we offered and did some amazing things. At the same time, we were growing a whole nother business. And
we also got offered to travel the country next year with the one company.
So I do think that's something that's special. And so to answer your question, I think it's just about timing, and I think also just random acts, send a text. Nowadays, it's a generation of texting. Send a text, you should call it. They're probably not going to answer.
Right.
But send a text, and it's amazing, especially with our younger population. It's immediately like, I love you, a heart, a smiley face. Because that's how they communicate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays the kids are on Snap. I watch when I'm filming. They're sitting there. My guys are right now doing it. And I chuckle, and they're going through, and and it's one of those funny things that it's how they communicate.
Yeah.
Right. And it's it's what it is in today's world of communication. Do I think it's the best? I don't know yet. The jury's still out on that, but I do think it's important to communicate.
Right.
And I think when you're doing that, and you're also acknowledging people's emotions, I think the outcome is always going to be better.
Yeah.
Try to be transparent.
Right. And this is the cold time of year, winter months coming in. It's the end of the year. Everyone's getting ready to eat everything for the holidays, drink whatever, get ready for their New Year's resolutions. When it comes to being a leader, what advice even would you give your listeners and viewers about how to handle those situations? It's easy to fall off the tracks for diet and not going to the gym as much this time of year, because everyone comes up with the excuse of, it's the holidays, we're going here to celebrate, here to see family, here to see friends. How do you stay on track, especially with your rituals and routines, going to the gym, eating right throughout this hard time when it comes to being a leader?
Well, first and foremost, it is, not to be cliche, but the most wonderful time of the year, right? I mean, and, you have Thanksgiving, which is exactly that. It's time to be thankful. And you roll right into the, Christmas and Hanukkah and the New Year. And I think the biggest thing is to remind yourself that New Year's and the resolutions, and, for a lot of people, is an excuse to let loose, and they say, I'll get back at it in the new year. And then, for me, I always like to remind them that, January is the number one highest month of the year of new member signups, and also the biggest drop off in February. And so I always say, hey, listen, if you're going 6 days a week and you're gung ho and the weather gets colder and the days get shorter and you get a little seasonal depression, or I don't like to say the word depression. I say, seasonal lack of motivation.
Right.
Make it a walk.
Yeah.
Look at your step count. If you're at 8,000, try to get to 10. If you're at 5,000, try to get to 8. if you're somewhat athletic, if you're, push-ups from your knees, push-ups, regular push-ups, planks, always doing something. And, we were so amazed by having that conversation, hearing how injured the founder of Increditor was.
Yeah.
And my man was still going at it 3 times a day. And even more impressive and older than him, celebrating a birthday when we had it, was the the director of science and their expansion.
Right.
Guy was impressive. I think whether he was celebrating his 70th or 80th birthday.
Doesn't matter.
And my man was going out for a 20-mile run in Las Vegas in 100+ degree weather.
Right.
And so it doesn't have to be that extreme, but be consistent because you feel better.
And people see you.
Yeah.
Even though they're not physically in front of you, they know what you're doing. They watch.
Yeah, they watch. And, and I think it's important just to have that consistency because it rolls over to everything. Then all of a sudden, consistency in being inactive, and then all of a sudden the aches and pains start creeping in.
Right.
And the attitude starts changing. You start losing your confidence. And now all of a sudden, you're praying for January because now you have to reset.
Yep.
So instead of punishing yourself, of course, we're going to say celebrate a holiday dinner and celebrate the year, that's about to end.
As we should.
We should, right? It's life, and that year is the last time you're going to see it. So celebrate it and want to say, hey, we won this year. What are we thankful for? What are we grateful for? And again, a lot of times I reflect on my dad. I know some things that make me so excited, with him is like when I watch him walk across the yard, he gets all the way across the yard. And the first time he had said something to me and it really hit home was like buckets and tree stumps. And, he's very outdoorsy guy. And I'm looking at him and I realize there's a trail going out to his favorite shed where he feeds his animals and his deer and his birds and this and that. And there's six things for him to sit on. And, it's heartbreaking for me on those days where I don't say anything and I eat it because I know that's a day where he's sitting every couple steps to regain his oxygen.
Right.
And, but again, being a stoic person like he is, he's, he'll get a little grumpy every once in a while, but he's just like, I do what I can do.
Yep.
And I think if more people took that approach, they would understand celebrating wins. Because when you can't fight something like that and it's an insurmountable challenge or task in front of you and you can't have back what you once had, then you should appreciate what you do have and be present. And I'm not saying work like you're training for a marathon,
right,
but get after it.
But don't not do anything and forfeit and take that L.
Yes.
Stand up. That's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Get up and move. Get up and move.
Absolutely.
So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
But I think that's super important. I think that our spiritual energy dictates our physical output. And so if we can make sure that we're firing up our spirit, our energy, it's like a goal going in. I'm not even a hockey person. Everybody jumps up and you get the energy of being at a Rangers game.
I know.
You have to figure out what that is for you. And everybody has that individual, combination lock.
Yeah.
And you have to know to tap in it. And that's part of my ritual routines. I know for me, I'm extremely competitive with myself. If I feel like I looked great last week, I want to match that or be better this week.
Be better.
And, that's part of me, but everybody else has their different thing. I think, working on that is something that's going to be, spiritually and physically uplifting. And I think it's something that as a leader, it's important and you want to resonate with your team that you do that and you make it a part of your life. And hopefully it carries over to them.
No, absolutely. And I mean, you nailed it. And that has a lot to do with setting the bar high, hitting standards. And when it comes to that, I feel that's so important because, again, everyone's personality is different. So not that we have different standards for everyone, but we have to handle those standards differently with other people.
I think that's a huge part. And, it's funny as today's podcast was to me a home run.
Yeah.
When you're talking about leadership and you're talking about it, you have to treat everybody as an individual. You cannot profile everybody as the same person,
right,
like their, avatars. And I think when you do that, the takeaway from today's podcast about being a leader is appreciating each individual as who and what they are. And somebody's win might be, astronomical accomplishment and somebody else could be so minuscule.
Doesn't matter.
But the reality is this, to them, it was huge.
Right.
And if you can celebrate those accomplishments,
yep,
I think as a leader and just as part of the human condition, you are a wonderful person. And I think that that's something that is a skill.
Yeah.
And, just like anything else, you have to work on it to be
absolutely
better.
Awesome.
So,
nailed it, Doc.
Brother, today was absolutely awesome. I hope that our viewers found this to be as valuable as I did enjoy it. The one thing I'll say about these podcasts, I find that I'm in there and I'm a student sometimes, and I listen to some of the stuff I say, or I regurgitate something I learned, and it's just such an amazing part to be part of this process. But to my audience and viewers out there, if you appreciated what Matt and I were talking about today, please share it. It's the greatest gift we could have as being on a podcast is sharing our content and liking it and even commenting, and any type of comment. If you don't understand something we're saying, ask us, and we'd love to elaborate on it, try to help you and make your life better or improve something you have going on in your life. But thank you so much. And again, follow us on our platforms with Dr. John O'Connor, the Tough Love Podcast, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.